Hello and welcome to the final Fantasy Take TV podcast for 2022. Today we'll discuss the grand final. Interesting day, definitely a lot to unpack on that. Obviously, I wasn't the biggest fan of Geelong going through the year, but I was definitely proven wrong there. So we'll speak all about the grand final. I'll speak about a little bit of Supercoach relevance in that game, and we'll also touch on the trade period. Very, very exciting. This trade period, probably one of the biggest ever, and lots of movement for fantasy and Supercoach. So that's something we'll unpack as well. So I can't wait to get stuck into that. But Eno, how are you?
Good, mate. Very good. Had to
And
organise this a bit. JD's with the kids at this early, so we usually wait for him at 8 o'clock generally when he can jump on after he's put the kids to bed. But I'm not available then. I'm doing a FIFA stream for whatever reason later on, so couldn't make it work last night. Couldn't tonight, and then tomorrow night I was probably unable to either way. But yeah.
But how was your grand final on Saturday?
Didn't watch after half time, mate, to be honest. At a mate's place in Richmond. I guess the 2019 grand final sticks out for everyone being similar, just an absolute thrashing, and no one else enjoys it besides the team that's winning. And I can see why people didn't care about that game, because I really didn't care after half time about the game on the weekend. But it does impress you, the club and the team that wins by that much in a grand final, just how far and away they were the best team all year, really. So they are deserving of it. Sydney didn't come to play. The young kids sort of, besides one we'll speak about, didn't really stand up on the day, and Geelong's experience just showed. I mean, it showed in the first 10 minutes, and the game was pretty much over. You know, they hung in there for half a quarter, but it was over after that point.
Yeah, so we'll delve a bit deeper into that. For me, obviously, JD not here. Very important. He's got kids, I suppose, so we don't really know what that's like. But he's got to feed him and all that, and bathe him and read him stories and take him to the playground and walk the dogs together and all that, I think. But anyway, but yeah, for me, a grand final was okay. I went up to Victor Harbor. I'm not sure where that is, but where that is, but down in South Australia. Got a mate that lives there, so invited everyone over, and I carpooled with people who don't watch footy, so they were really keen to go to some stupid bakery and get this Oreo donut or something. So I missed the first quarter because they were that keen for the bakery, and I was messaging the Discord. I was like, "What is going on?" Every time I check the score, it's 6 and it's 12. It's a goal after goal after goal, and I started watching about 25 minutes into the first quarter, and I was like, what is going on? Is this for real? It's over. It's 2019 all over again, as you said, and that's what it was. So my day didn't probably enjoy the game, but I definitely found a lot more respect for Geelong. Probably was a bit slow to realise how good they were this year. And this year, I think we all felt this was their best chance in 10 years. But how good were they? Well, they showed us all. So especially, I think my tune probably changed a little bit last week against the Lions, where Fagan had no answer for them and Sydney had no answer for Geelong. So I think, Geelong as an organisation, you can say about like the list management. I still think it was quite risky list management. I mean, but it's worked out. I think, in Supercoach, right? We look for value picks, and the value they've gotten out of guys like, Stengel, Dangerfield and Selwood, like these guys took unders what they could get elsewhere. So that's like the whole culture of the club. And you look at Chris Scott, the fish, the opposite of the fish rots at the head, whatever that is. So Chris Scott, if you remember a few years ago in the COVID year, he sacrificed his entire salary. So that's pretty amazing and pretty selfless. And, it stems throughout the club, and, that's what Geelong are all about. So, getting value out of all of their players. They don't overpay people. And also they're recruiting from the VFL, like getting, Tom Stewart, Tom Atkins, Close, I think, was mature age. All these guys that have well outperformed whatever Geelong are paying them. So I think that's probably a big part. And also the game plan, I think, is pretty. It's almost choke proof, because you watch them play, they score. You look at Sydney play. Like, how did they play on the weekend? It was kind of move it slowly, chip mark, execute, and then try and score from there. I think it's okay. Like, it's definitely worked for most of the year, but against a team like Geelong who can score more efficiently, Geelong just had to bomb it in the 50, and of course they got Jeremy Cameron and Tom Hawkins. Like, two of the top five, maybe probably the top two, maybe top three if you want to include Lynch, maybe Kerno as well. So you just bomb it into there, you get it in quick into those guys' hands, and it's just an absolute nightmare for the McCartan boys. So, how did you see, maybe like from a game plan perspective, or like maybe something you admire about Geelong? Like, how did you see Geelong's performance?
You're probably right. Like, they didn't match him in the midfield, and then it's over from there because, like, around the ground, Geelong's team is just much, much better. And like you're saying, they don't, like you said, they just have to bomb it in, and it's not like a lot has to go right for Sydney to win like a game like that in the grand final. And like you said, it's worked for the most part. They got lucky in the prelim as well, you might say. But for Geelong, I feel like they can win in more ways, and opening their game style up this year has really helped. So credit to Chris Scott for doing that, because to be fair, if they didn't come away with a premiership this year, or next year or whatever, it would be a failure for how good and how much they've been up the top for a long, long time. So doing it, hats off to them, really. And like we said at the start, it was their best chance of doing it for a decade, and they got it done. They're probably one of the more dominant grand final teams and winners over the past decade, really, as well. Like, just how we thought it was a pretty even season, but I think it showed at the end, and I think their percentage showed it too. They were just way above probably the rest, and just myself probably just didn't want to believe it, but
No.
or just until they did it, and they've done it. So you got to put respect there. And I just, like any grand final winning team, whether it's my own, whether it's in the past, a number of them, Melbourne last year. I just like all the stories of individuals, to be honest, of how they've got there, where they've come from. Tom Atkins stood out to me, like just a bloke that's grew up in Geelong, played VFL for a bit, got mentored, I think he was saying, by Shane O'Brien, who's like their VFL or development guy, and now he's like one of their best midfielders in and under, and wins a flag for it. So stories like that, I love for sure. There's plenty to go through, like the Guthrie brothers, Tom Stewart. I know you're not a fan, but another one that just comes from a local club, VFL, and makes his way up to the top. So hats off to them. And then Joel Selwood, like the head of the snake, that man. I know a lot of people want to talk about some things in his career, but to be honest, there's no better leaders really for a long, long period of time. And him and Danger really, like Chris Scott had said it as well, didn't play that great last year. I know Danger's dealt with a few injuries, but those two really stepped up all final series. And Danger was probably second best on ground, third. Selwood had an unreal game. A lot of them did, but I just like those sorts of things in the stories from the grand final winning team, just all the individuals and how they got there. And Jeremy Cameron, funny bastard, isn't he?
Yeah, he's too good.
He's unreal.
Although
Although he didn't have his best game, but it didn't matter.
No, Hawkins was the one I thought.
Early. And Isaac Smith.
Honestly,
what about him, dude? They got him for not much. He's 33 years old, wins the Norm Smith. Like
Isaac, yeah. I'm not sure. Must have been a free agent, I reckon.
He's probably one of the best wingers in the last decade, really, with how consistent he is. So,
almost watching Isaac Smith in the finals last year, he was probably one of their best players in the finals, and he was kind of like, "What's going on? We're not performing to the level." And you could see, like, I think it was like fair to question Geelong over the past decade, and I almost think Dangerfield was probably a few years in Danger's prime, probably carried them to top four when they probably shouldn't have been there. But you're watching Smith's performance. I mean, I missed the first quarter, so I'm assuming he tore it up something bad.
Really? I think he had 10 and kicked 2 goals.
Yeah, so I mean, and he still finished the game pretty strong. So he's another one and their players just don't. They get older, but when is the cliff coming? It's not really coming, and now they're getting all these young kids through trade period as well. So it's exciting times to be a Cats supporter. But I want to ask you something. So I've been the biggest fan of Geelong, but I almost started to turn. When you see like Selwood with his hands over his head, and you see Danger, who like the reasons why I dislike Danger are so stupid and novelty and trivial, just because he left the Crows and he said a few things to got in the Crow supporters' skin maybe a little bit, and also he stopped the diving and the theatrics the last 2 weeks, because that has been in his game for a few. It pops up every now and then. So and it was just a no fuss performance, but to me he's a legendary player. I think he's like walk up Hall of Fame. Won the Gary Ayres medal. So Did you were you at all happy for Geelong? Because after I was barracking for Sydney so hard, but I feel like a lot of their players like really deserved it. What do you
Yeah,
think?
no, I think like about any club. I don't generally really hate any club, but I know a lot of Victorian fans because there's so many big clubs in Victoria, and that's where the game is. That you can't like any other club, and um, even if Collingwood won last week, you would have been happy for that story and to see it, even though it burns you because they're the biggest club, rival of my club. But like, you still would have been happy to see it and all the stories and whatnot, and that's what you feel on grand final day. And yes, there's players have some flaws. Like Danger, he does love the center of attention. That's who he is. Like, when we talk about my club and Dusty, who's been the best player, polar opposite, but that's just different human beings. And how good was the retirement home thing they did yesterday?
That was a pisser. I
That
think
was the
it was
best.
funny, and then the guy fell out. I don't remember. The guy fell out.
I think it's
the
Isaac
bed.
Smith. But again, Danger, like he's leading the charge there. He loves the attention and all that. But that's him, and he's never shied away from it. But when we talk about footy, like you said, the last 2 weeks, he's stood up and he's played probably his best couple of games in a long time, and deservedly so. Of the Gary Ayres medal. So, by the way, Jack Crisp second, I think, in that. So,
Funny world, isn't it? But yeah, you wouldn't have expected that from Crisp after his second half of the year. But yeah, who knows
he's
what
huge.
happened there?
He was huge.
So we'll move on to Sydney.
Yeah.
What happened here? And so I tipped Sydney, probably biased because I was going for them to win. I don't know what to say. I really thought that a team could beat Geelong if they got a hold of their midfield. Because on paper, their midfield, it's good. And I guess on the day, you get like the older guys. They're not going to perform every week, but on the day when they need to, Selwood and Danger, they're going to turn up. But the midfield was smashed, and oh my God, John Longmire did the biggest cuck move. Callum Mills back to defense. Like, are you serious? Like, you're losing in the midfield, and to weather the storm, you put him in defense. I mean, it didn't matter, but
it wouldn't have. But
why? And he kicked that goal from 55 out or something, which is really good. Almost got him going, but no chance. I hate that move so much because I don't think he is a Mr. Fixer. He can be, but he's far too good in the midfield to be used like this as a spare in defense. It's just, I don't like it. Parker was okay. His pressure was good, but I don't know. I just didn't feel like they were still walking it out the middle far too often. I thought Warner, as the game got on, was really, really good. Warner was probably their best player, I think.
Yeah.
I think the damage was done as he got better as the game went on, but still, I thought it was an encouraging performance from him. But yeah, as I was saying before, like the game plan it requires so much execution against so much pressure. It was pretty tough for them just to score. But what was your take on Sydney? Do you think it was game plan? Was it like certain players didn't perform to expectation? Maybe did they play the grand final? What do you like last week? What do you think?
Mixture of that too, but last week Hickey, really good performance. Didn't get that from him on the day. Blitzarves was really, really good as well. I think it's just a collective. You look around in the Sydney team, and a lot of them just had really poor days. And a lot of them, you tend to be the younger guys. Heaney, he hadn't had a touch till 5 minutes left in the second quarter, I think. Not that playing forward up until that point wouldn't have been too pretty, but I think just J McInerney was under a bit of an injury cloud. He didn't look up to it. The Reid decision to play him instead of Logan. Look, all these things probably wouldn't have mattered. Geelong deserved to win and would have dominated pretty much any team in the last 5 years, really, on the day. But the tactics going into it and just a few of the younger players, I think, just didn't stand up to the day. Like Ryan Clark going to Stewart, did that really work? Look, Stewart was a bit quiet, but still, DeConing had a great day. He was able to get free. Like, I just don't know if that really was going to work or do anything. But, yeah, like I said, end of the day, Geelong had probably the best, 15 of the best 18 players on the field, really, maybe even more. So that's just what it boils down to. Look, I think it all comes down to how they're going to turn it around. I know your club, after a big grand final loss, the Giants haven't been able to deal with it. I think they were better. They were a younger team, still on the up, whereas Crows are in their prime. GWS were probably in their prime, maybe just well, they were really a lot of their players 26, 27 at that point. So a lot of the Sydney players are still young. Just comes down to the coaching, really. But Horse admitted he got it wrong on the day. But like I said, I don't think it would have made a difference, really.
I don't know what they could have done. I think as a start, like winning it from the source would have been nice.
Yeah, Geelong's pressure, like they could have been up more, to be honest, in the first. I know you didn't see it, but like it was maybe like a 2-goal, 3-goal margin for 15 minutes. It could have been even more. It was like 10 inside 50s to 1, pure domination early. They just didn't convert, but once they did, yeah, it was all over.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on Heaney quickly. The last 3 weeks, Isaac Heaney looked like the 3 weeks leading up to when we traded him in Supercoach. And one of the reasons why we traded him, I guess, was first, like, I was confident that he was going to be okay after the bye, just because there was better forwards that we thought were available. Apparently not, because Tim English was terrible for the rest of the year. But he could barely get off the ground. You saw him like at the start of the year, was flying for marks, working up and down the ground so hard, but he's just so flat-footed. And when they put him in the middle of the ground, he just doesn't look like touching the ball when they put him there. His acceleration is just so poor for some reason, and I do wonder if I don't mean to make excuses for him, but I wonder if something's up with that ankle or something's up with him, because he's played through niggles his entire career. But disappointing performance from him. But him and 18 other blokes. He was
poor,
really.
And he was probably one of their top 5 or 6, which goes to show just how poor they really were.
But yeah, can Sydney turn it around next year? I think, as you were saying, they're probably a bit younger than the Giants and the Crows. When the Giants and Crows made it, they probably weren't ahead of the schedule. Yeah,
it was their time.
Sydney, it was hard to pinpoint how good they were, but maybe it's like, well, they beat Melbourne, and turns out Melbourne weren't actually that good, or anywhere near what they were capable of. And then who they beat, like Collingwood, they were this close to losing. They were 30 seconds away from probably losing that game at home. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't think we'll see too much regression, but I think we'll see a lot of the young guys like Warner will get better, Gordon will get better. Key forward, they need Logan to come on, because Buddy, it's pretty concerning.
And Reed's almost done too. Like, they'll play on, but they're at the end. So
yeah,
you hope they don't. But hopefully
they got more time. Yeah, if it doesn't work out next year, they got more time. But it must be pretty mentally scarring to be a part of that performance. I know Mills did an interview and he was completely shattered. He was swearing a bit. He's like, "Oh, sorry," he just couldn't just kind of came out. He was that disappointed in himself. So I think that's our grand final recap. I do wish it's been a while since we had I think last year was really good. It's just that it was kind of up until the midway through the third quarter, but
it was good for longer. Yeah. At least this was over pretty early. It happens a lot. It really does. One team just deer in the headlights, the other one gets a lot of confidence and gets going, and really there's only been probably 2 or 3 close ones in the last decade. Like, Hawthorn dominated a lot. We ended up winning a few that Geelong just did. Melbourne did. Like, I don't know. There hasn't been many close ones in recent times, but you think Geelong can win it again next year? I don't see why they can't.
Oh, I don't see why not. Interesting. They just said he's content now.
Retire. Not that would have a huge impact. He was good, but I think they can, at least cover off him at some point. Although he was really good, but I think the word is he probably will retire, but I don't know.
When I was watching the game, people around me were like, "Why is he carrying on so much?"
It seems
I was like, feels like he's going to retire here, but who knows? Wouldn't
probably discuss
if he goes again. No issues. Like, I think he did
play 15 games.
Still very serviceable, and it was great in the 12 touches in the first quarter. They didn't see most of it, but I think can they compete again next year? They should be able to. It's just when is Hawkins going to decline? It's amazing what he's doing.
Did you hear Jez talk about him too? About him as his mentor and everything, and how you got to watch that. That was really cool.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, in the rooms afterwards. That's the other thing. I just like watching all those things post game and all that, no matter who the team is.
Yeah.
But yeah, those two are like probably another 2 years. You still get out of, like, he's 34, but it doesn't matter. He's still moving well. He got those two early goals on Hickey. So
yeah, I saw the one out the ruck. It's just it's such a weapon for him. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So they'll probably go into next year as favourites. If I had to pick someone right now, I guess it's hard not to pick Geelong. Although Gawn and Grundy and Melbourne sounds pretty fun. I want to see that.
That's the other thing. It's hard to sort of pick. Like, Melbourne really failed us. Brisbane, I mean, they had a good run, but failed us in the end.
I think it's coaching with Brisbane.
Same with the Bulldogs. Just can't get it right.
Coaching,
So it's hard to even pick anyone else, really. Like, you'd be picking Sydney to bounce off the canvas, but that's also pretty hard to do. But yeah. So
Geelong would be our tip at this point, I guess. Who knows? We'll see how preseason goes, but who knows? It's hard to tip the team that won by so much. It was clear first. So I think we can move on to trade period. I love trade period. Listen to trade radio in the car, just do nuffy calls. And one thing that really annoys me is the amount of the media, people in the media, especially with the Crows. It's like, Rankin, they have to pay pick 5. He's on $800K a year. But I think that the clubs with the club that trades a player who is out of contract gives up so much leverage because, like, the clubs have, like, barely any power and the players have all the power. So it's like if Adelaide go to Gold Coast, who, by the way, almost treating Rankin as, like, almost, can they even afford him given their salary issues at the moment? So it's almost disguised as like a non-salary dump when it could actually be, but maybe I'm just being a biased Crow supporter. But like if Adelaide go and offer, say, pick 10 for Rankin, and they say no, what are they gonna do?
It's gonna let him waltz into the, I don't know. It's all too much for me.
Do you think? Just quickly, do you think, like, you follow American sports a hell of a lot more than me, and the clubs have more power, probably, the teams have more power because they're more money and stuff. Do you think that the players have too much power in the AFL, or do you think it's, like, good that they're really well looked after?
It's heading towards that way, and I think people are struggling to deal with it, whereas it's probably always been like that in American sports. But there's obviously nuances with, mid-contract asking for trades or whatever, whether you're free agent, not free agent. But I think it's just going to take a bit of time for Australians to get their head around it. And it seems to be the way we're heading. I mean, we already, once free agency has been, 10 years, around 10 years almost. So that took a while to get used to. The compensation thing, I think, is a bit of it's like a halfway thing to try and keep clubs happy. You're losing a good player, but you're getting a pick here, so it's not that bad. But it's hard because we're in the middle. You either got to be fully into it or not at all. And when you're halfway in between and all the rules to try and help keep clubs happy, keep players happy, it sort of is a bit of a shit show, to be honest. So it seems we're heading that way, but it's sort of going to take some time, and in that time, people are going to be upset and not agree with it. So yeah, I think it's just going to continue really until we fully buy into it. But I just don't think the Australian public can. I don't think they just ever can.
Well, I think Gil was saying that we might end up with mid-season trading.
What's wrong with that? I've
seen
it for ages, but a lot of people aren't going to like it. Like, I mean, NRL, look, I don't really follow it that much, care about it that much. Players know or sign where they're going the following year during the current season. Like, you'd be playing with a guy you know is leaving, and you already said he's leaving, knows where he's going, and they don't seem to have an issue with it. Like, there probably is internal issues sometimes. Bloke's going to hold a grudge. That's going to happen. But we got to, I don't know, just accept it more, to be honest. And I'd love mid-season trades. Clubs are able to get a position of need, make a run at finals if they want, or if they're crap, trade away a player who might be valued somewhere else. Blah blah blah. I'd love to see that, but yeah, who knows?
I think it'd be fun, just like leading up to it, a bit of like unknown. Like, is this player going to leave halfway through? I think it'd be interesting. It's bad enough as it is.
Halfway, but deadline, you can't do it late in the season, all that sort of stuff. But they will eventually. It'll just take years. It'll just take some time.
Yeah. So I think before we get into a few players that have been highlighted over trade period, and we'll go over their Supercoach relevance as well. Only a handful of players here. I'm sure more names will pop up. But a word from our sponsors at Manscaped. So, gentlemen, all men strive for gold in their life: gold medals, gold watches, gold everything. However, there is a certain type of man who goes the extra mile. He walks with the extra confidence, like John on the weekend, of an eagle and giggles in the face of danger. He's big, he's hairless, a winning machine, and when he unzips his pants, he sees platinum. That's right, Manscaped would like to announce their biggest and best ultimate hygiene bundle, the Platinum Package 4.0. So many things inside the Platinum Package: the Lawnmower 4.0, the Weed Whacker for your ears, the nose trimmer, or the Weed Whacker ear and nose trimmer, the ultra premium body wash, the 2-in-1 shampoo and conditioner. How about that? Premium deodorant and a crop preserver anti-chafing bowl deodorant. Chafing summer is coming, so you definitely want to look after yourself. The crop reviver bowl spray toner, the anti-chafing boxes, again chafing very big issue in the summer, and the shed travel bag to hold your goods while traveling. Manscaped have supported us so much throughout the year, so big thanks to them. Their products are fantastic. Been using the Weed Whacker and the Lawnmower 4.0, and they've been fantastic for me. So I do appreciate their support. Of course, they've supported all three of us. So thank you to Manscaped, and I think we'll move on. We'll speak about the few names over trade period. So the first one, we did discuss this on a previous podcast, but I think Tom Mitchell, a bit more steam that, it was kind of rumored he wanted to go to Collingwood. Now we know he wants to go to Collingwood. I don't really want to pick Tom Mitchell, to be honest. How do you feel about it? I think he's about 520k, so it's not exactly cheap. What do you
I
think?
got away with it last year. I'm not going back.
Yeah.
It's more the game style too. They play similar to how we do at Tigerland, obviously with Craig McRae. They just don't possess it that highly. And for Tom Mitchell to be a good scorer in this format, we know he needs to average 30 plus, really, probably more. And not sure what he ended up averaging this year, but down a bit. Hawks are even, I don't think Sammy Mitchell wants to use him that much, but obviously knows he has to. But I just don't think footy's really suited to him anymore. And he could still do work in the midfield, but as I said, he just needs more touches to be a good scorer. And at 520, you said, if he's going to be around that,
Yeah.
It'd have to be cheaper, like a 450, to be worth it, knowing that he could get up 100, 150k, but as like sort of a pretty much keeper you're picking him for there, it's just, to me, not a pick.
He was awful in the preseason this year, and it came out that he had groin issues. So I guess the CBA is going to be bumped up. But again, he's like 29 going to 30. That's sort of when we see, that's when Pendlebury, Dangerfield, those sort of players begin to decline. We saw Lyons as well. Lyons was 29, premium season, hit 30, and then he's out of the team.
Yep.
So it tends to be that age where players start to drop off. So I definitely want to monitor. He won't be in my opening team, though. Okay, playing the similar mold is Matt Crouch. So I was reading today that who was it? Bryce Gibbs was saying. Now this is just a article based on Matt Crouch. It was nothing like he wants to go here or this club's interested. But Bryce Gibbs suggested that GWS should look at Matt Crouch because they are losing Hopper and Taranto. You get a ready-made player at 27 come in. I honestly think he's a really hard worker. He's probably got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, I think. I don't think it's out of the question to pick Matt Crouch. I think he's 490k. I would love for that to be 400 flat rather than 490. But at the Crows, there's absolutely zero chance I go near it. I think just the threat of being dropped is too high.
Yeah. Is he over injury issues? Is he?
I think so.
Looking to be over that, because that's the only thing. He's still young enough. At 27, you wouldn't think he's at sort of age, but that's fine. That's in your prime.
He had a really rough preseason this year, getting over groin for an entire year.
If they lose Hopper Taranto, what is it? Kelly Cogs stays in there.
Tom Green.
Even Bruin's gone, who was getting
Yeah.
So he'd be the fourth. In
maybe
rotation.
Perryman in there.
So the role would be there, and he's cheaper. Look, it's come down to cheaper than like Tom Mitchell. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think Cogs and Kelly, I think they'll probably rotate a little bit as well. I don't think playing them full-time mid, given the injury history, like 90%, 80% CBS, I don't think that's optimal for them, to be honest, but maybe they have a plan. And also Kingsley comes from the Richmond system, so maybe he adopts that sort of thing. So
because he is another high possession guy.
Yeah.
He had a good 2020, back end of 2020, so it's not out of the question for him.
Full preseason high CBA role. We need to see it. I think a lot of stars need to align though. The next player we have is all the talk right now is who the hell wants Jack Bowes? And the answer is everyone, because I think they want to package pick 7 in the deal. So they probably expect another first rounder back, but upgraded to pick 7. We owned Jack Bowes, and I, to this day, still get blamed for Discord. A lot of us jumped on Jack Bowes. I got to take some responsibility. It was a reckless trade, but in a seagull role, which is, I guess, not that hard to do. You know, if you have a good work rate, get the ball, take kick-ins, read the ball okay, which I think he can. He can score well, but is he a midfielder? Is he actually good in the midfield? I don't know. Down back, do they give him the seagull role? Do they give him more of a shutdown role, which the Gold Coast have done in the past? And also, he's done a few hammies and had a few injury issues. So 310K, I guess it depends on the club, but clubs are going to be throwing themselves at him just to get pick 7. Because like salary dump is like, if you have the cap space, you can definitely improve your list long term significantly if you can just survive the whatever 1 or 2 years that you take the cap space, the cap on. Do you have any general thoughts on Jack Bowes? 310K, I think will be defender mid.
I think you said it. It's sort of just what is he? He's a former top 10 draft pick as a midfielder, right? Didn't really work out. Did okay as a defender, but yeah, what is he? Where's the new club he goes to if he does? Going to play him? All that. It's just too many unknowns. But of course, the price is the biggest factor here as well. Again, 300K. That's cheap enough to sort of take a flyer on if the role is there. But again, I have to see what the hell happens before we know. But it's more just the unknown of what he really is. Like, I think he can be a good enough midfielder, but it's just he hasn't really shown it at Gold Coast. Didn't get the role probably as much, and then they found another spot for him in the 2s, and he actually did all right there. But again, it's not too hard to do well there, is it? So
I think he had 40 touches one game in the VFL.
Who knows? Where's Fiorini on the list, George? I think he's probably the one that's most intriguing, isn't he? If he finds his way to the Pies, because he is a midfielder. He just no spot for him at Gold Coast.
Yes, I think he was averaging about 100 odd in 2021, I want to say, something like that, when he was getting about 50% CBAs, starting on the wing a fair bit. But yeah, I think a decent role. I mean, yeah, he's far too good for the VFL. He's a 135 fantasy average or something, which clear top in the entire VFL. So where's he going? Like, do Collingwood prioritize Fiorini? Do they prioritize Tom Mitchell?
I don't know. It's hard.
I think Mitchell's probably better.
Probably, but it's just more the age.
Look at
me there.
Age, yeah.
Really,
they got a pretty
25.
Yeah. But I think he'll be almost impossible to pass up. But it sounds like Gold Coast, like they have to clear cap space. So I think
unfortunate for them. Like they've got to pay the bag to keep guys.
GW is the same.
So, what's Tucon's? He's probably still taking a pay cut, really, but they've got to just pay these guys to keep them.
Tuke's actually not on that much, I think, like 700.
It was Bowes like back-ended, so that's why it's a lot, but still, it's probably better paid.
I think I read 850 today for next year.
For the next 2, yeah.
Jesus.
So whoever gets it, they probably have to still pay some of that as well.
I was speaking to JD in the Discord. I'm like, Crow should get Bowes, and he's like, Eston should get Bowes. We could use him in the midfield or halfback, or no, we'll use our empty cap space. And then we just both realize that he's probably going to go to Geelong. But yeah, Bowes would be an interesting one. They'd have one to monitor for sure. See where he goes. and your Fiorini as well. And last one we have on the list is Jack Graham. So he's done like 80s in the past, but he's what is he, like a part-time midfielder or almost like a permanent half forward for you guys? Port Power are interested. Could you see a world where say they give him heaps of mid-time? Is he someone you'd consider for your forward line?
Oh yeah, he'd have to get the mid-time.
He
hasn't ever been able to find the ball, and again, probably Richmond game style, but even still, he just always feels like a 15 possession player to me, and that's just not simply enough. And he probably gets there to that 80 average with his tackling, that sort of thing. And I don't know, he just doesn't do enough. Like, he's just more of a defensive midfielder, really. And they've already got Willem Drew does that a bit. Boak's probably probably got another year. He just ages beautifully, but he'd probably just play half forward again, like a Sam Powell-Pepper or something if he went there. And I guess he's just requested a trade, seeing that if we somehow get Hopper and Torano across, there's just truly no spot for him in there. Like, there just isn't. So you can't begrudge a guy that wants game time and wants game, because like even still he was not selected for the final as well, and apparently was fully fit to go. So Jack Ross played ahead of him and actually played all right in that game particularly. So don't know, he's a bit in a weird spot. Like, he was injured, I think, in the back end of the last flag. He missed out on one. I can't remember if it was 29. I think it was 29.
He's injured, yeah.
Like, he's still young, so still plenty of upside there, and maybe he gets a role at another club.
I don't like what I've heard from you there. That's too many red flags for my liking, but I guess
he's not a ball winner. He never has been. Yeah. But again, I can't judge him at our club for that. But he just, you rarely ever see him over the 20 touch mark. So
I did read that he's, I believe he's the number one pressure player in the comp.
Does a lot of that, does a lot of tackling. I know Dimmer's never tagged, but you would have maybe liked to see him have those roles more often. Maybe could have sent him to a lock-in or something if he played him, but we've never done that. So who knows? Maybe he does that at another club. Could be handy as a sort of a player, but probably not Supercoach relevant.
Okay, I think we'll wrap it up. I think you have a FIFA stream to get to, FIFA 23.
Figure out how to do that.
But thanks again for been a pleasure this year. No?
Yep, been a pleasure. Thanks everyone who's still watching at this time. But again, I know you're probably already looking keen to next year. I won't listen to trade radio that much. I know it's part of the fun listening to the Nuffies, but God, that does my head in at the same time. But I guess I'll be listening more, see how my club goes in particular, yours as well. I guess that's the reason everyone cares when you're not up the top like Geelong. What the hell is your club doing to get there? So we're both in that position. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Rankin getting across, mate, getting done.
Yep. late first rounder done.
Rankin, Rochelle, not a bad little small forward crop. And then the fold.
It's promising. You don't get too excited. Although it is on paper, it is exciting, but it's not easy to win premierships, and it's a full team effort. And our defense is, I would argue, our defense is the worst in the league. But
is that what needs addressing? Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yes, I think we'll wrap it up there. And thanks everyone for tuning in for the year, and we'll see you guys probably later in the year for when Supercoach opens.